But you didn't give birth this morning.
What do you mean?
That's what I just said. You didn't give birth this morning. And we want to know where this baby came from.
Texas, summer 2020. A woman named Taylor Parker is faking being pregnant, regularly updating her social media, for instance, with pictures of scans and details of hospital appointments, all of which relating to the baby that isn't forming itself finger by finger in her womb. Taylor Parker's isn't a story of a young woman with an overwhelming desire to become a mother. It's a story of a woman who was prepared to go to any lengths to stop her boyfriend leaving her, even if it meant doing the unthinkable. The pregnancy of 21-year-old Reagan Hancock, unlike that of Taylor's, is real, Reagan's good friend Taylor Parker having been the one to take official pictures sometime before at Reagan's engagement and wedding respectively. As for Taylor herself, fast forward to the start of autumn 2020, at the very moment when fake pregnant Taylor was supposed to be induced, the hospital in question was subject to none other than a bomb threat. This is what Taylor herself reported on her social media. While this may have held people off asking on that specific day where Taylor's baby was, certain other people had, in any event, since remembered that, having had a hysterectomy some years before, Taylor being 29 at this point, Taylor couldn't actually be pregnant in the first place. If you're enjoying this video so far, do give it a like, do subscribe, do drop a comment when you're ready, and donate. Hit the thanks button below, I'll appreciate you. Taylor's boyfriend, though, incredibly enough, wasn't one of the people who knew that Taylor wasn't really pregnant. The problems that Taylor and her boyfriend had been having for months now had led Taylor to try the famous Princess Diana marriage-saving tactic, have a baby to keep your man. Apparently, saving her marriage is why the late Lady Diana had been eager to have a second child. As we all know, though, ultimately that tactic failed her. But at least the former Princess of Wales really did have a baby. I honestly can't explain how Taylor was able to stop her boyfriend seeing her naked or touching her abdomen from about her fake 4th month of pregnancy onwards, but she absolutely did. The ultrasounds and the doctor's appointments that she faked in the course of her non-existent pregnancy were, as you can see, all a lot easier to stage. If Taylor's boyfriend had been able to touch his girlfriend's belly after about month 3, he'd have felt the fake pregnancy belly that Taylor started wearing in order to make herself look like she was expecting, of course. Not even entertaining, it would seem, the idea of coming clean to her boyfriend and to others, even when she reached her due date. Taylor, rather, started watching, on that day, the 9th of October 2020 that is, videos of physical exams being carried out on fetuses. Specifically, she watched a set of videos of babies being delivered slightly preterm at about 35 weeks, which was, on the 9th of October 2020, where the fetus of her good friend Reagan was. Feeling sufficiently educated in the matter of how to deliver a baby that's coming a few days early, on that date, 9th of October 2020, Taylor headed over to her good friend Reagan's house, where she found her good friend with no other adults at home, and where she promptly got out both the hammer and the knife that she had brought with her, and then set about inflicting over 100 wounds on her friend with those 2 weapons. The 4-pound jar of pink and blue sand from Reagan's wedding, where she had acted to remind you as Reagan's official photographer, served Taylor as a 3rd weapon, and with it she added to the many wounds that she had caused to her friend's head, whacking her on the top of her head with it. While the hands of her 35-week pregnant friend later attested, with their many wounds, including a finger that was nearly cut all the way off, to the massive fight that the victim had put up against her attacker, the victim went down once and for all when Taylor got into the position where she could literally hammer Reagan on the head repeatedly, smashing in her good friend's skull. After cutting Reagan's fetus out of Reagan's body, the next stage of her plan that she rapidly performed, she promptly took flight, but not before jabbing the scalpel that she had used to open her dead friend's abdomen into her dead friend's neck. Before you ask, I've got no fucking idea what the perpetrator was on. Attacking someone even after you've killed them, though, is a way to sustain the sense of dominance and triumph that you derived from the act of taking their life. That's what psychological experts say anyway. It's also a manifestation, in some cases, of your anger and hatred for the person. If Taylor was angry or hateful towards Reagan, then other than possibly being jealous of someone who was in the position that she wanted to be in, expecting a child, I honestly can't say why she felt that way towards her. In a horrific twist to this already sickening story, Reagan's 3-year-old daughter was at home at the moment of the murderous attack on her mother. We don't know how much of the attack she saw or heard, but it's very unlikely that she didn't see or hear any of it. Whew. At around 9:30 a.m. that morning, a Texas state trooper noticed on his road patrol someone driving very erratically. On pulling the driver over, he found a young woman whose newborn baby's umbilical cord seemed to be coming out of the young woman's trousers. The young woman identified herself as Taylor Parker and explained that she had just given birth to the baby on the side of the road and that the baby was unwell, which brings us to a key difference between the outcomes of the crimes of Lisa Montgomery, which she perpetrated against 8-month pregnant Bobby Jo Stinnett on the 16th of December 2004, and the outcomes of Taylor Parker's own. When the trooper pulled Taylor over, the baby wasn't breathing. Not long after being taken to McCurtain Memorial Hospital in Oklahoma, the baby, a boy, was formally pronounced dead. Having been raised by her father, Bobby Jo Stinnett's own baby is, as at early 2025, a young woman out in the world, and my video on the sad story of her mother is either linked in the video description or in the end screen, or is coming soon. At 10:18 a.m, 911 got a call from a notably distraught local woman who reported that she had just found her daughter dead in her home. It ended up taking the Texas Rangers themselves to attend the scene, turn the body over and find the woman's belly cut open with the 35-week fetus that was meant to be there missing. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, it had quickly been established that Taylor hadn't just given birth, and with the speedy investigations that the police in attendance at Reagan's home undertook, Taylor was arrested only hours later.
You claimed to be pregnant for a while, but you really weren't. So we're trying to figure out where this baby came from. But you didn't give birth this morning.
What do you mean?
That's what I just said. You didn't give birth this morning. And we want to know where this baby came from. So what happened?
Despite the massive amount of evidence against her, which included not only having been caught with Reagan's baby, but also her internet search history, in court, Taylor pleaded not guilty to the 2 counts of murder that she faced. She was also up on a charge of kidnapping because she carried Reagan's baby away with her. A guilty plea spares the time and expense of a trial, and defendants are rewarded for that with a lighter sentence. In other words, when you're guilty, taking a plea deal is often your best option. I'm not quite sure how Taylor thought she was going to escape the consequences of her horrendous act by pleading not guilty, but then we're dealing with a very sick woman, which actually is what the prosecution basically said. To be exact, they said that Taylor was a danger and that nothing less than the death penalty would be an appropriate punishment for her crimes. Taylor's defence, for their part, blamed Taylor's family and friends. Yes, you heard right. Taylor's close circle should have challenged Taylor's claim to being pregnant months before Taylor committed her criminal acts, as a result of which Taylor would never have committed her criminal acts. Personally, I can't help but notice that it wasn't Taylor Parker's friends and family who stabbed and hammered Reagan Hancock to death, then cut her baby out of her, but failed to preserve the baby's life. I think it was Taylor Parker herself who did those diabolical deeds. Predictably, the defence also chucked in the good old insanity argument, claiming that Taylor was mentally ill. They also argued that the baby was already dead before Taylor ripped him out of his mother's belly. This was to defeat the kidnap charge that Taylor faced for, as I say, carrying the baby away, and to reduce the murder charges from 2 to 1, and move that remaining murder charge, the one against Reagan of course, into a lower category of homicide where the death penalty isn't allowed. Medical experts, though, told the court that the defence was talking shit. The baby was very much alive when he was cut out of his mother's body. As at early 2025, Taylor Parker has been sitting on death row for over 2 years, spending a lot of her time, apparently, bragging to her fellow inmates about what she did. Because she's a wholly remorseless bastard who can't be executed soon enough, I'd say. The victim impact statements from Reagan's mother and sister, which they delivered after Taylor's death sentence was announced, the jury having taken less than an hour to agree the guilty verdict against Taylor, expressed both their disgust and anger at Taylor and their love and grief for Reagan. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.